Michael Dease, and this is video number 1 in a series of 4 for the 2021 Seiko Summer Jazz Camp. I'm speaking to you as a trombonist, as a musician, as a jazz musician, and as someone that just really loves this music and wants to spend some time talking with you about things that are so much fun to do as a trombonist and as an instrumentalist. All right? One of the most important things to deal with this wild and crazy instrument is articulation. Articulation is really profound on the trombone. It's a larger than life concept because the trombone does not have the bits and pieces on it like keys, valves, buttons, pistons, and keys, I think I said already, levers, hinges, anything that you can think of to help articulate the airflow and the sound through the instrument. We don't have that on the trombone. The trombone is a really simple instrument. It consists of a bell, like an amplifier, that wraps around to a gooseneck or a neck pipe, which connects to the slide, which is the other half of the instrument. The slide comes through to a mouthpiece, which amplifies the buzzing that the lips make. So we get that 3-part action happening. It's a really simple instrument. The slide extends, and the only way to separate the airstream into separate notes is to use a motion with the tongue, a striking motion called tonguing, and that is where our articulation comes from. So we're going to start with one of my favorite exercises. It repeats the striking action of the tongue in a routine way that lets you focus on every attack and compare them against each other to make them very consistent. Here's how it sounds. I'm tapping my foot really lightly so I can reinforce the pulse. All right. Now, the first way to perfect your articulation is to practice saying it and even singing it away from the trombone. In this case, we're using a staccato articulation, which is short and slightly accented. So repeat after me. Ta 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 ta. Good. So when you do that away from the trombone, it reinforces the consistency of the tip of the tongue striking the same place behind the front teeth, just in the front of the roof of your mouth. All right, that's a great exercise because you can take it at an extremely slower tempo, and you can slowly increase the tempo to get faster and faster. This is how you develop and strengthen and perfect your articulation that's so important on the trombone, called the single tongue. The single tongue has all the power, the rhythm, the control, the finesse, and it lets you really connect your ideas to your emotional feeling. The single tongue has the most control on the trombone, all right? And it's a popular articulation that jazz musicians and jazz trombonists use on the trombone all the time. think about anyone that you like to listen to, and 75, 85, 90% of their playing is controlled by the single tongue. So here's what that art exercise sounds like, practiced really slowly and really carefully. This is where I recommend starting this at. In this case, this will be the 8th note, and the staccato notes are 16ths. 1, E, and 2, 3, E, and 4. You can take this exercise and play it all over the horn. All right. As you get control and clarity and consistency, the three big C's on the trombone: control, clarity, and consistency. You can increase the speed. I'll jump all the way to the end. Right? That's a lot faster. And then take that exact exercise and move it up and down the trombone. Here's going up. And so on and so forth. You can go down too. As you speed up and master this exercise, be careful that your tongue doesn't move too much from attack to attack. We're really trying to isolate the tip of the tongue so that the motion is as small as possible. The smaller the motion of the tongue, the easier and quicker it is to engage it. All right? Single tonguing is a really big deal. Once you've mastered the staccato version of this, I think it's a great time to move on to the legato version. So instead of ta 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 ta, we're going da 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 da, and connecting all of the D, A articulations. Da 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 da. So you hear that connection of the air column and airstream through the notes. So again, we're going to sing that. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. All right? The first thing that you notice when you're playing legato is how differently it sounds than staccato articulation, and how different it feels. That's totally fine. That's actually a good thing, because the more different that they feel, the more control you can enact over them, because they have different ways of feeling inside of your mouth. All right? So let's say we do this practice in one octave. you have one octave there, that's a good way to compare your lower notes and your higher notes to see if they have the same high level of quality. All right, you want your low notes to sound as good as your high notes. You want your high notes to sound as good as your low notes. Once you get control over the staccato and the legato single tonguing exercise, start to mix and match them. This is where it gets really fun. If you go back and listen to that, again, you'll notice, if you didn't already, that I used a different combination of staccato and legato tonguing between every different key. And that gets really fun because you start experimenting with improvising your articulation. But with the improvisation, you're choosing between staccato and legato. Those choices help you personalize the way that you sound, articulating any notes that you play. And this can very, very quickly be integrated into how you improvise when you're playing a jazz solo, even a melody. For instance, here is a solo line that uses all legato articulation. Right? Here is that same line using all staccato. Right? What was your preference? If you said the first one, then you and I would be agreeing, because that's my preference. The legato approach in linear playing, where notes follow each other, is a pleasing sound because we like the way that those connected notes lead into each other and the way that they realize the harmony. So those long tones that connect with that single articulation give a sense of flow. That same flow can be realized with staccato playing, but if the staccato is done too much, then things can start to feel disjointed. But check out what happens if I combine the two. So the staccato has entered a couple times in each of those phrases, and it serves to pop and wake up the possibly sleepy legato line. All right? Everything's a rhythm, but the staccato rhythm compared to the legato, so close to each other, creates something really interesting and unique. It creates a conversation. All right? Articulation at its finest is a conversation between the composer's melodic line or the improvisers and the music, the accompaniment, the drums, the bass, the audience, and everything living around them. So articulation gives you the keys to start accessing that conversation, that dialogue with not only yourself and your ideas, but the musicians you play with and the people listening to you. So in this first video, I want to summarize how important articulation is. And the trombone does not have any help. We don't have keys like the saxophone, buttons like the trumpet. They're not laid out in front of us like the piano or the Hammond B3 organ. And we don't have access to all of our fingers to identify and play all the different notes. All of our rhythms happen in here. And the control that our tongue has interrupting and continuing the airstream is so important. All right? Trombonists are made or broken by their articulation sometimes. And your articulation doesn't have to be virtuosic. It doesn't have to be the fastest in the whole world. But it has to be personal. It has to be clear. It has to be intentional. And it has to carry some of that warmth and glow and unique, special, soulful vibe that we all have in each of us. So I encourage you, use this video, use these exercises to work on your articulation. And I look forward to hearing how articulate you are on the trombone the next time I hear you. Thank you very much. This is Michael Dease.